welcome back to the channel. Today we are here for part 12 of reacting to your football hot takes. You guys know the drill. A couple days back on my community tab, I asked you guys for some of your hottest takes in regards to the beautiful game. And like always, man, when it comes to this series, you guys, actually when it comes to everything, you guys never let me down. You guys never disappoint. Not just with this series, but overall, the support on this channel has been amazing. And I want to thank you guys so much, man, from the bottom of my heart. It really means the world to me. And yeah, man, this is a fan favorite series on this channel, the longest running series on this channel. And I love making these videos, bro. I absolutely adore making these hot takes videos. So I cannot wait to get into this. Like always, we're going to go through some of the best ones that I saw, tell you guys whether I agree or disagree, and just talk about football, which I know we all love. And yeah, man, if you guys want to be involved in the next reacting to your football hot takes video, look out for my community tab post. But yeah, man, enough yapping. Let's start reacting to some of these hot takes. The first take we have in this video is the same people that say that football is dying are the same ones that troll and bash players, and especially youngsters, after they have one bad game. If football is dying, it is because they contribute to it. I 1,000%, 100%, 1,000,000%, actually I should have said 100, 1,000, a million, not 1,000, 100, a million. But anyway, that's besides the point. I agree with this take. 100% agree with this take. And I think there's two things at play here. Number one, nostalgia bias is always going to play a factor, a huge factor in the way that people look at sports, not just football. If you ask people who are in their 60s about the NBA, they would say, oh, the current NBA is soft. They're all soft like Charmin, that little fucking bear in the commercials. He's funny as fuck, by the way, that little bear. But they're all soft. The 80s with Bill Laimbeer and Isaiah Thomas and Michael Jordan flying through the air and Larry Bird and Kevin McHale were so much better. This current age is terrible. And if you ask people my age, they would say the current NBA is the best NBA ever, in our opinion. And it's the same thing with football. If you ask me what the best era of football is, I would say when I started watching football, from like around 06 up until present day. Because I, in my opinion, got to see the two greatest players of all time battle it out. And, you know, put together over 10 years of just utter dominance that I 100% think we will never see again. I don't think we're ever going to, sorry, I had to burp. I don't think we're ever going to see a Messi and Ronaldo rivalry again in football. And not just that. Madrid versus Barca, Pep versus Mourinho, Ramos versus Piqué, Marcelo versus Dani Alves. I mean, in my opinion, we got to see the greatest era of football of all time. But again, I'm biased as well. It's not like I'm not immune to it. I'm also biased towards my era. But again, the difference with me is, and I think a lot of other educated people, is that we can appreciate our era. We can think our era is the best, but also appreciate other eras is what I'm trying to say. And most people, they don't do that. They just like to bash other eras and just praise their era. And that to me is a toxic way of looking at the game, and it's ruining the way that we just watch football nowadays. Because you can never appreciate anything because you're always going to be comparing it to the past. And if you try to compare every player to Messi and Ronaldo, you're going to be left wanting more all the time. If you try to compare every single team to 2011 Barca or 2012 Real Madrid or that rivalry, you're going to be left wanting more every single time. Just enjoy what you have now. And the other thing at play here, and I think the biggest factor with this whole thing is this, and this is something that I'm really passionate about if you couldn't tell. Nowadays, more people, like, everybody has an opinion and everybody can give out their opinion when it comes to sports. Back in the day, you had to be a journalist or a TV personality to give your opinion. But nowadays, with the rise of social media, which I actually like, by the way, because that's actually how I'm here right now. I don't have a journalism degree. I didn't play sports. I just have a fucking camera and a phone. So I'm happy about that, by the way. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's like this space sometimes gets ruined by a lot of bad apples, and especially on Twitter. I think Twitter is one of the most toxic apps to talk about football because there's always people just trying to bait for engagement. And they're always trying to bring other players down. And by the way, Barca fans do it. It's Real Madrid fans, it's Barca fans always trying to shit on other players, on rival players, and praise their own players. And the problem with that is that a lot of times these tweets get seen by people who are very easily persuaded. They don't actually watch the games. They get all their opinions from Twitter. So they see that maybe Lamine Yamal had one bad game, and they see that Ronnie RMFC, you know, Real Madrid FC, Lamine Yamal sucks. So they're gonna think, oh yeah, Lamine Yamal actually does suck, and they're gonna run with that opinion. Because again, they don't have the personality or the brain power to form their own opinion when it comes to things and to actually watch games. So again, nowadays, Twitter has made it to where everybody can have an opinion, and most of the time these opinions are very toxic and they ruin football. It ruins football discourse in general. People only look at GA, people only look at this and that. They don't actually look at the games. And I think that's one thing that we're missing nowadays is the nuance of football. I don't think football is in a worse spot than it was 10 years ago. Again, do I think the talents were better 10 years ago? Yes, but football right now, if you look at it, is in a really good spot. Talents like Vinicius Jr., he's a once in a generation talent. Lamine Yamal, I believe, is a once in a generation. Holy fuck, why am I struggling with this word? He's a once in a generation talent. Jude Bellingham as well. Arda Güler, who had a fantastic Euro campaign. I think he's going to get even better. You know what I mean? Guys like Phil Foden. Guys like, you know, Garnacho, guys like Kobe Mainoo, all these different youngsters that we're seeing nowadays, you know, come up and play so well. I believe that football's in good hands. And again, it's because, like, if I compare those guys to Messi and Ronaldo, I would be disappointed. But again, I'm not comparing them to Messi and Ronaldo because they're different. They're their own players, and it's a new era. And again, with the way that time is going by, football is always going to be, it's always going to be influenced by money. It's just the fact of the matter. So again, do I like the new UCL format? No, but guess what? We'll get used to it. Do I like the new World Cup format? No, but guess what? We'll get used to it. I don't know about you guys. Just because there's a new UCL format, I'm not going to stop watching football because I love this sport so much. So again, I think I've been going on a tangent here and I've kind of been maybe talking all over the place. But my point is, football is not dying. It's just you have to get rid of your nostalgia and you have to actually form your own opinions and not compare everybody to Messi and Ronaldo. And not think that because one player has one bad game that he's all of a sudden a bum. Okay, I fell victim to that, by the way. When Jude Bellingham first got to Madrid, I said he was going to be a flop and that the English tax was real with him. And when the first few games when Bellingham was tearing it up, I refused to give him credit. Now, I was obviously trolling a little bit on TikTok, but I'm part of the problem as well. I'm not immune to it. Obviously, I try to be different here on YouTube and actually be non-biased and be more like give an actual serious opinion, unlike TikTok, which is just mostly trolling. But again, I'm at fault for that as well. And maybe I made some people believe that Jude Bellingham was actually bad. And obviously, if you watch the games, you will know this guy's talking a bunch of shit. So again, for me, I don't think that football is dying. I think that nowadays, because everybody has an opportunity to give out their opinion, they just spew a bunch of misinformation and people buy it. Because again, most people can't think critically enough to form their own opinion about a player or a team. And that I think is why people look at football in a different way nowadays. But again, I don't think football is dying at all. I think football is in a really good spot. I think it's going to continue to grow. And again, if we can get rid of the mindset that every player is supposed to be the next Messi and Ronaldo, I think we're going to be in a lot better place when it comes to the future of football, in my opinion at least. The next take we have here almost gave me a heart attack. Lewa is going to improve massively under Hansi Flick and will prove Michi wrong. No, what is he going to improve on? What is Lewandowski at 36 years old going to improve on? The Renegade? That's pretty much it, bro. He can learn new dance moves, okay? I think there's new dances on TikTok nowadays that people can do. Maybe he can become a thirst trapper, Lewa has, beautiful blue eyes. Maybe he can start filming his eyes and do thirst traps. But as a footballer, he's not going to improve, bro. You don't improve at 36. Okay, Ronaldo didn't improve at 36. He was just the same Ronaldo that he was when he was 34, 35, which was still one of the best players in the world. Messi at 36 is not improving. He just still has that world class quality. Okay, you don't see Messi get better. Okay, a lot of players, once they get to that age, they don't get better. And Lewandowski is just what he is. Lewandowski is what he is. We've seen it for almost a year and a half now, since the World Cup in 2022. Robert Lewandowski is not a serviceable striker anymore. In the modern football, with all these great strikers, and especially with Barcelona, when you're competing with Real Madrid, who just signed Kylian Mbappe, the best player in the world, in my opinion, you cannot have Lewandowski up top, and he's not going to improve under Hansi Flick. Because, yes, I understand that Lewandowski had the best years of his career under Hansi Flick back in 21 and in 2020 when he should have won the Ballon d'Or. That was a different Lewandowski, okay? That was a younger Lewandowski. That was prime Lewandowski. Current Lewandowski is a shadow of himself, bro. He's not the same player anymore. And again, you could think I'm picking on him. I'm just speaking facts. If you watch Lewandowski, whether it's in the friendly against Man City, or you watched him all of last season, or you watched him the year before, he never really... He doesn't show up anymore. He's just not that guy anymore. And for me, I think the sooner that Barca realize that is the sooner they're going to progress as a club. But again, for me, I don't see how Lewa can improve. What can you improve at 36 years old? Again, like he's not going to get any faster. His finishing is not going to get any better. He's not going to get any stronger. Okay, this guy's not fucking LeBron. Okay, LeBron got better. Actually, LeBron's one of those guys that maybe you could argue got. Actually, no, because 2013 LeBron was insane. But again, if you're world class and you like, some players can maintain world class ability for longer, and some guys they're world class and then they just kind of fall off a cliff. And I think Lewandowski's one of those guys that just fall off a cliff, and it happens to a lot of guys, by the way. Maradona fell off a cliff. Maradona was fantastic, and then from one year to the other, he was just not that good anymore. Luis Suarez kind of fell off a cliff as well. Suarez was amazing, and then you had a couple years where you're like, what the fuck am I watching at Barca? So again, I think Leo was just one of those guys. He's not, again, going back to Messi and Ronaldo. We can't compare him to Messi and Ronaldo, okay? Because he's not them. So again, for me, I don't think Leo is going to improve at all. I think he's going to continue to be the same guy that he was before Flick got there, which is a mediocre striker at best. The next take we have here, Haaland in the UCL is better than Mbappe in the UCL. That is a very, very, very tough take, bro, because I think that both of these guys are second and third best UCL players of this generation. I think the best UCL player of this generation is Vini. And honestly, bro, I'm a Barca fan. Obviously, you guys know that. I'm not going to hide it. I don't even think it's fucking close. I think Vini's the best UCL player of this generation, and he's like far ahead of the others. So I think these two guys are second and third. Now, who's second and who's third? I think that Haaland's 2022-2023 UCL campaign when Man City won the treble, obviously won the final in Istanbul. I don't think Mbappe's ever had a UCL campaign like that. And I think Haaland, when he was at Dortmund, and if you see his UCL record at Dortmund, like his goal-scoring record, he was amazing. I think he got to 40 goals, actually. I think this guy points it out. He got to 40 goals faster than Mbappe did. But the difference between Haaland and Mbappe is that when you look at Kylian Mbappe, yes, he's never won a UCL, and this year he goes there for the most part. But Mbappe has done it in a lot of big moments, bro. And Erling Haaland, I don't think Haaland, like, this narrative that Haaland goes in the big games, I think it's a little bit played out nowadays because Haaland is like the way that Pep utilizes him in these big games. It's just not. It's like he's never gonna really thrive in that system. But again, when I look at Erling Haaland, he does tend to sometimes come up short against the big teams in the UCL. He doesn't have that it factor sometimes when it comes to playing those big teams. Like we saw against Real Madrid for a couple years now. He didn't really show up against Real Madrid the year they won the UCL or this year either. And, you know, for me, when I look at Mbappe and what he did against Bayern Munich, what he did at the Bernabeu, what he did at the Camp Nou, not at Montreal, but what he did at the Camp Nou back in 2021 when Messi was still at Barca. You know, he's done it at some of the biggest stadiums in Europe. And he scored against some of the biggest teams in Europe. And for me, again, I don't know. If I had to pick who's second and who's third, I think Haaland, maybe that one UCL run puts him ahead of Mbappe because, again, Mbappe has never had a UCL run like that. But I think consistently in the UCL, I think Mbappe has been a little bit better. So again, it's a tough one. I really don't know if to agree or disagree. Like I said, I think number one is Vini. But after that, it's going to be hard, man, because both of these guys are fucking monsters in the UCL. But again, I think Mbappe has a better record when it comes to playing against the big teams. But Haaland has that one UCL run that was better than any UCL run that Mbappe has had, in my opinion. So again, for that, it's tough. But if I had to pick, because I'm not going to pussy out of this, I'm actually going to give you guys an order. Vini, number one. I'm going to agree with this guy. I would put Haaland at number 2, and then I would put Mbappe at number 3, just because of that one UCL campaign by Haaland was so fucking dominant. I mean, people forget what Haaland did against Bayern Munich, where he was fucking fantastic in both legs. Again, I think he missed a penalty, but he actually came back and scored a couple goals. So for me, I would say Haaland is better than Mbappe slightly, but I think once we see Mbappe next year with Madrid, he's going to probably surpass Haaland, in my opinion, because he just has more of that individual quality game winner ability about him. The next take we have here is Lautaro Martinez deserves the Ballon d'Or this season. No. Bro, I love Lautaro, okay? He's a fantastic player. 27 goals, I think 7 assists in all comps this year. He was amazing. But if you look at Lautaro's goal-scoring record, in Serie A, he did tail off towards the second half of the year. Like in March, April, May, he wasn't really scoring as many goals as he was early in the year. And I look at, and again, that's not to diminish him because he had an amazing Serie A campaign and obviously was the reason why Inter won the Scudetto running away and was the reason, in my opinion, why Argentina won the Copa America back-to-back. He was the reason. I mean, Julian obviously starts for that team, but Lautaro was just a better player and obviously scored so many important goals for them, including the winner in the final coming off the bench. So I think Lautaro has had an amazing an amazing season. And I think when I talked about when I did my Ballon d'Or video a couple weeks back, I forgot to mention him. I should have given him more credit because I do think he deserves to be in the top 5. But again, bro, me as a Barca fan, I have to admit, I have to be fair. I think the Ballon d'Or deserves to go to a Real Madrid player. And I think obviously trophies matter here. And I don't think that a Serie A trophy and a Copa America trophy is enough to put you ahead of the guys like Mbappe, not like Mbappe, like Bellingham, Vini, and all those other Real Madrid players, and even Rodri. Because again, I'm talking about the Madrid players because again, I think one of those two guys deserves to win. I think Vini deserves to win over Bellingham, in my opinion. But again, I think if you look at Vini and what he did in the UCL and those big moments, again, Inter had high hopes for the UCL this year, and they got knocked out in the round of 16. You know, they got knocked out in the round of 16. Real Madrid only lost 2 games this year to one team, to Atletico Madrid. Actually, funny enough, the team that knocked out Inter. And, you know, when you look at Vini and what he did, he was transcendent that UCL run. I mean, he was fucking amazing. So for me, again, I think Lautaro deserves a lot more credit for what he did this year. But if I'm looking at the Ballon d'Or, it's got to go to a Real Madrid player because obviously trophies are a factor in the voting. I mean, voters look at that when they're deciding who they're going to vote for. And I think when I look at that and when I look at what Vini did in the UCL, the most important competition in European football, I would give it to him. But again, that's not to take away from Lautaro Martinez, who was amazing, was one of the best goal scorers in Europe this whole year and also in the Copa America. But if I had to look at it, I don't think that a Copa America and a Scudetto and a Serie A that was really uncompetitive this year is enough to put you over the top and make you win the best individual or the most prestigious, individual award in the history of the sport, in my opinion at least. The next take we have here is Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe at PSG might be the biggest underachievers in football history. Look, when you think about underachievers in the history of football, the first team that comes to mind are the Galacticos. Okay, that's the first thing that comes to most people's minds because that team was stocked with talent, so many names, and yet they didn't manage to win a UCL. And you know, when you look at that team, like I've mentioned before, they were old though. That team was old. Nazario was old. Beckham was past his prime. Figo was really the only decent player on that team. Like he was actually still really good with the Galacticos. But Zidane, I mean, most of these guys were just past their prime. So again, I'm gonna give the Galacticos a little bit of slack when it comes to that. And I think that you could argue that Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe are the biggest underachievers in football history because they were all technically in their prime. Messi was a little bit past his prime, but Messi went on to win 2 Ballon d'Ors after joining PSG. He won it the year he joined PSG, and then he won another one when he won the World Cup. And Neymar, to me, was still, at worst, the second best player in the world when he was at PSG, when Messi got there. And Mbappe, you could argue, was the best player in the world. You could argue that team had the 3 best players in the world at the time. I know Ronaldo was still really good when Messi first joined PSG, but still, you could argue those were the 3 best players. And for you never to make a UCL quarterfinal, they never made a UCL quarterfinal, bro. And again, injuries had a big factor in it when they lost to Bayern Munich because Neymar was not available for that tie. But still, bro, you not making a UCL quarterfinal in 2 years with arguably the 3 best players in the world. And again, that team was very unbalanced. And the coaches were terrible. Galtier was fucking terrible and Pochettino was terrible. But again, when you have that much firepower up top, you at least expect to get to a UCL quarterfinal, a fucking semifinal, even, man, a final would be great as well. But no one's asking you to make a final. At least make it past the round of 16. And they couldn't do that. And I would actually, as a Barca fan, I would say that I think that MSN underachieved as well. I honestly believe MSN underachieved. And I know that's crazy to say because they won a treble their first year together. But when I look back on MSN and how talented that trio was, the fact that as a Barca fan, I can only look back at that era and say that we won 1 UCL pains me, bro. It's something that when I'm on my fucking deathbed, I will think about how the fuck did MSN only win 1 UCL in 4 years together. I will never get over it. I will never get over MSN only winning 1 UCL. Honestly, I will never get over it. It's one of the biggest, oh my god, what the fuck was that moments in football? And again, for me, I don't think you could put them in the same conversation as Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe because again, that team won a treble. This team never got past the round of 16. But as a Barca fan, I have to throw that under because I believe that MSN should have done more, bro. MSN should have gotten further, and it pains me, bro. But again, I would agree with this take. I think the Galacticos are up there, but I think when you factor in that when you put the context behind it that these guys were in their prime and were arguably, like I said, the 3 best in the world at the time, and to not even make a UCL quarterfinal, you can 100% be considered the biggest underachievers in the history of football. The next take we have here, CR7 will forever be more remembered for being an international failure than being a great club player. I don't know about you, bro. I'm not going to remember CR7 for being an international failure. And I think that if we as football fans remember CR7 for not winning a World Cup or being subpar in the World Cup with Portugal and not remember him for what he did for Real Madrid and Man United and Juventus and even Man United the second time around, we're doing football a disservice. I'm not going to remember CR7 as an international failure. The same way that if Messi would have never won a World Cup or a Copa America, I would never remember him as an international failure because these guys are way more than their international career. Again, international career is a small sample size of your overall football legacy because you spend most of your time playing for your club. Okay, so for me, I watched CR7 for years dominate Europe. For years, bro. I watched Messi for years dominate Europe, and I think it's doing a disservice to one of the greatest players of all time, to me the second greatest player of all time, to only look at him as an international failure. CR7 is much more than that, bro. This is a guy who, is arguably the greatest goal scorer in the history of the game. This is a guy who, came to Madrid when they were in a down period and basically revived that club. If it wasn't for CR7, Real Madrid are not the club they are not the club that they are today. I know that's crazy to think about, but if you go back and look at Real Madrid before CR7 got there, they were not in a good place. And the little brothers in Spain were building a fucking dynasty. And when he got there, it took him a while, but they ended up winning a bunch of UCLs, as we know. He ended up winning 4 with them. So again, for me, when I look at CR7, I'm going to remember him as one of the greatest players of all time, one of the greatest players that I've ever seen, and one of those guys that he's a go to the game. He's a go to the game, and for me, I'm not going to remember him as an international failure. Again, that's part of his story. When you talk about Ronaldo, you have to talk about the fact that in the World Cup, he never really lived up to his potential. You have to talk about the fact that he only ever won 1 international trophy with his country. And that was in a game where he was sitting on the bench. He was on the bench for that year when he got hurt. But again, that's a small part of it. The overall legacy of Ronaldo, the overall history, the Wikipedia page of Ronaldo is overwhelmingly positive because he is one of the greatest, to me, the second greatest club player of all time. Not just like the second greatest player of all time, but at the club level, this guy achieved everything. So for me, again, this is not how I will remember Ronaldo. Pardon me for that. And I think if you do remember Ronaldo in this way, you're just basically doing yourself a disservice because you got to appreciate the player, man. There's much more to football than just an international tournament. And I think that's not a good way of looking at the game and looking at an individual player. Our next take in this video is Lamine Yamal will come top 3 for Ballon d'Or next season. The delusion train has left the station, ladies and gentlemen. Choo-choo, all aboard. I'm the first one. I'm driving the fucking train. I 100% agree. And by the way, this to me is not a delusional thing to say. Sorry, I had to burp. Damn, twice in a video. We had missed the burps in a couple videos, but now we made up for it. Two times in one video. But anyway, Lamine Yamal top 3. Yes, bro. I think he will. Honestly, I'm going to buy this take. I 100% agree. And look, the thing for Lamine, I think his production is going to be there. Actually, a part of me says, no, don't say that because you're putting too much pressure on this kid. And I do feel like I'm one of those people that's just like the worst type of people to be around when it comes to like football fans because I'm always putting so much pressure on these young players. And again, I criticize Barca fans for doing that, but then again, I am one of the main Barca fans that does that, at least online, I think. So again, quietly, I agree, but for the video, for the camera, I disagree with this take. Don't put pressure on Lamine Yamal. But in all seriousness, bro, look, I think it's possible for Lamine Yamal to finish top 3 in the Ballon d'Or. Obviously, I think when it comes to a talent like Lamine Yamal, nothing is out of the realm of possibilities. I think he's shown that throughout his career. I mean, his short career, the kid just continues to defy the odds. But, you know, for a 17-year-old to finish top 3 in Ballon d'Or will be unheard of. And again, I think he can have the numbers because now we see, like I said, now that Messi and Ronaldo are not in football anymore, you can win the Ballon d'Or without having like fucking 70 GA like those guys were having. But I think the thing for Lamine is going to be, can he win the trophies? If Barca can win the UCL, Lamine Yamal can have 35 GA, you know, like I predicted in my bold predictions video, over 40 GA, then 100% he should finish top 3 in Ballon d'Or voting. But again, if Barca win the Copa del Rey, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And especially the Real Madrid are the team that are winning the other trophies, you know, it's just not going to happen. So for me, again, I think the biggest thing is going to be if Barca can win a couple big trophies, most notably the UCL, because usually if you win the UCL, you're in a good position to win the Ballon d'Or. That thing can happen. But again, I'm not going to put that pressure on Lamine because he is so young. But I wouldn't rule anything out for this kid. I think he's one of the best talents that I've ever seen at his age. Arguably, not even arguably, to me, he's the best talent I've ever seen at that age, under the age of 18. And I think that if he does finish top 3 in Ballon d'Or voting next year, it'll be one of the greatest stories in the history of the sport. And we know how amazing football history is. But I'm gonna buy this take quietly, but sell it loudly in this video. The next take we have here is Fermín López is underrated and should be talked about on the same level as Pedri and Gavi. I think Fermín López is one of the most underrated young players in football right now. A guy who was pivotal for Barcelona last year, who came up big so many times for us, man, whether it was in the UCL or La Liga, scoring big goals when Barcelona needed him the most. And he's a kid, man, who is always giving it his all. Fermín López is the definition of, you know, he gives it all for the badge. And the same thing with Gavi, by the way, Mpe. I think these 3 kids are fucking amazing kids. Or like we're all around the same age anyway. But I think these 3 guys are fucking amazing. And I do think that Fermín López should be talked about in the same level as Pedri and Gavi. The only difference is that those guys have been at top flight for a really, really long time. And Fermín just had his first season as a first team player, obviously. But I think this time next year, if I'm sitting on this show, which hopefully I am, or maybe I've moved to like a castle or something, maybe I've made enough money where I can buy like a palace, like one of those like Corey in the White House type of thing. You guys know that show from Disney Channel? Maybe I can be living in the White House. What are you talking about, living in the fucking White House? But anyway, if I'm sitting here next year, I think we could be talking about Fermín López being one of the best youngsters in the world. I think he could be in those conversations with the guys that we hear nowadays. You know, all those kids, like whether it's Lamine Yamal, Pedri, Gavi, you know, Arda Güler, all those guys. I think he could be in those conversations because again, the talent is there for the kid. I keep calling him kid. That's so fucking condescending. The talent is there for the guy, man. The guy is. I was gonna do it again. The guy is really, really talented, and again, I believe that once he gets more playing time, and I hope that Hansi Flick can integrate him more into this team and have him play a pivotal role because we're going to need him. Again, we don't need Dani Olmo because he's taking minutes away from Fermín López. That's one of the things that pisses me off about the whole Dani Olmo signing is that we're taking minutes away from an interior who we should be trying to prop up, you know, and play more because he has the talent, and we've seen it already. So for me, I 100% agree. I think Fermín López is extremely underrated. And I think that next year, we're going to be sitting here talking about how Fermín López is one of the best youngsters in football. The next take we have here is a footballer's peak is way more important than consistency in terms of all-time rankings. This is an age-old debate. What do you value more, peak or consistency? Okay, me personally, I think it's a mixture of both, but if I have to pick one factor, it's got to be peak. Your peak, I mean, how good were you at your apex? At your absolute fucking best, how good of a player were you? That to me is a huge factor. Now, obviously, you can't, like if you have a 1-year peak, okay, like Michu did at Swansea, and then like you're fucking shit for the rest of your career, then no one cares, okay? If you're like Dele Alli, where you burst onto the scene, you were fucking amazing for a couple years, and then you kind of faded away, I mean, it doesn't matter. No one's gonna say that Dele Alli is better than Zidane because you could say I mean, no one's gonna say it, but I'm saying like hyperbolically, he had a better peak than Zidane, so that means he's better. Again, it's a factor of both, but if I have to pick one factor, like the one factor that to me is the most important when comparing two players, if I have to pick between peak and consistency, it's gonna be peak. That's why I rate Luis Suarez higher than I do Karim Benzema. Okay, I think Benzema had better longevity, but I think Suarez had the better peak, and that's obviously it's debatable because that 1 year that Benzema had when they won the UCL, he was fantastic. But I think Suarez had the better peak in 15-16 and 13-14, and his time at Barca, his peak was just better. Iniesta, Modric has the longevity. He's gonna have it. Cruz has the longevity over Iniesta and Xavi, but I think Xavi and Iniesta's peaks were higher. Okay, I think those two guys had peaks that were so high that when the longevity is somewhat comparable, but the peak is just a little bit higher, I'm going to give it to the peak, if you get what I'm saying. I don't know if that makes sense, but I hope it does. And yeah, for me, again, I think both of them are very important when comparing two football players or comparing careers. But if I have to pick one that's a little bit more important and that I value more, is definitely peak. The next take we have here is Lionel Scaloni is the greatest international manager of all time, winning 2 Copa Americas and a World Cup with only 2 losses in 63 games, ending a 28-year trophy drought, surpasses any other international manager's achievements. I agree slightly. I don't know, bro. This is a tough one because here's the thing. Pt12 is the only manager ever to win one or more World Cups. He won two World Cups with Italy back in 34 and 38 when Italy went back-to-back right before World War II happened. But again, if you know anything about world history, you know that at that time, Benito Mussolini was a dictator. He was a dictator of Italy at the time, and he kind of influenced Italy winning one of those World Cups for sure because they were hosting the tournament, and you could obviously argue the other one as well. So again, that's not to take away from Italian football or Vittorio Pozzo because again, winning 2 World Cups is an amazing achievement. But again, it happened so long ago, and there's so much like gray area around that. I'm not even going to count that. For me, I think the only other guy that's in the conversation for greatest ever international manager besides Scaloni is honestly Vicente Del Bosque. People look at Scaloni nowadays, people look at Scaloni and they think, oh, this guy's young, you know, he just got into the job. We can't put him with some of the all-time greats. He's in that conversation already, guys. I don't know what you want him to do. This man, this guy, Adam King, puts it perfectly. He literally put it perfectly. The guy walked into the Argentina job after Argentina was a mess, bro. 28 years without winning a trophy, and you have the greatest player of all time. You like failure after failure when it comes to international football. And Scaloni comes in after the 2019 Copa America where Argentina got knocked out by Brazil. And what he's done since then is revive a sleeping giant in international football and have arguably one of the greatest runs in the history of football. I mean, again, Vicente Del Bosque was a guy who won World Cup and Euro. He didn't win, sorry, I had to burp. Holy shit, 3 times. That's a bonus. I just had steak, so I'm sorry, I'm kind of burping right now, but that's besides the point. But anyway, like I said, Vicente Del Bosque won World Cup and Euro, obviously in 2010 and 2012. 2008, he wasn't the manager for that team. He just wasn't the manager for that team. And Scaloni was a guy who's already won more trophies than Del Bosque at the international level because he won a Copa America, a World Cup, and a Copa America. Those are the 3 biggest trophies you can win when you coach a team, obviously in Conmebol. Obviously, Spain is in UEFA, so they won the Euro. But again, he can't win the Euro. He can only win the Copa America, and he's won it twice already. He's never lost. He's never not finished first at a tournament with Argentina. Think about how crazy that is. He's managed 3 international tournaments with Argentina and never lost a single one with them. He's been the best. They've been the best team at every tournament that he's been the manager at. That's insane, bro. That is crazy. And the way that he had, people think about, if we look at Scaloni, those teams play well, bro. It's not just fluky. If you look at the World Cup, everybody talks about the penalties. Argentina played really well in that World Cup. They were better than Australia. They were better than the Netherlands. They were better than Croatia. They were better than France until they got that penalty. They were just a better team most of the time. In the Copa America, he has that team playing well. He knows how to make the right subs. He made those 3 subs in the Copa America final that changed the game when he brought on Lo Celso, Lautaro, and I forget who else. I think it was Leandro Paredes. He changed the game when he brought on those 3 subs. And again, to me, Del Bosque, I value him. I rate him very highly because that team that he had and the dominance that they had in international football was amazing. But if you look at 2010 Spain compared to Argentina, it's not the same. Again, Argentina have by far and away the best player out of those 2 squads with Messi. But after that, if you name the top 10 players from those 2 teams, I think 9 out of after number 1, 9 of the rest are Spanish players. He didn't have the time that Del Bosque had. So for me, again, I think we have to start having this conversation. I think it's between Scaloni and Del Bosque. And if you said Scaloni is the greatest international manager of all time, I will not be upset with you at all. The next take we have here is Barca should go for Alvarez instead of Olmo. I've seen enough, bro. You should become Barca's next sporting director. Honestly, I'm not even being sarcastic. You're better at this fucking job than Deco. I 100% agree, bro. Obviously, Barca should be going for Julian Alvarez over Dani Olmo because Julian Alvarez can actually fill a position of need. Barca need a striker desperately. I've already talked about Leo enough in this video, but I don't want to say anything again about him because I'm trying to be nicer. But he sucks, okay? He sucks. Barca need a striker desperately. We don't need another interior. So if I was Barca and if I had 60 million to spend on Dani Olmo, why not offer City 60 million for Julian Alvarez? Because obviously we know Julian Alvarez is not very happy with his playing time because he wants to play a bigger role in crucial games. And if you bring Julian Alvarez to Barca, he's undoubtedly the starter. He will be the unquestioned starter every single game. And also it came out that apparently his family doesn't like the cold weather. Barcelona has amazing weather, bro. Honestly, they have amazing weather. I've never been, but I'm assuming they have amazing weather because I see the pictures. So for me, again, I 100% agree. I think Julian Alvarez will be a great signing for Barca, and he would be a lot better than Dani Olmo, who's quite frankly a guy who is a luxury and not a necessity. And Barca are not in a position to make luxury signings as it stands currently. And the final take we have in this video is Madrid 2017 would beat 2009 Barca in a UCL final. Ah, man, this is tough. These are, to me, two of the 5 greatest teams of all time. I think Barca '09 is the greatest club team of all time. I think Madrid is 3 or 4, honestly, because that Madrid team was fucking stacked. If they played on the UCL final, here's the thing, bro. 2017 Madrid couldn't even beat 2017 Barca. You know, 2017 Barca, we came back against them in the Bernabeu, obviously with that Messi goal. Not came back. We actually beat them, not came back. They actually came back on us, and then we ended up scoring the winner. But anyway, Barca beat Madrid with that Messi winner in the Bernabeu without Neymar. And that Madrid team was basically fully healthy. And for me, look, when I look at '09 Barca, I mean, both of these teams are filled with star quality, bro. There's so much firepower on these teams. And when you look at those front lines with Messi, Eto'o, and Henry, and then you look at Ronaldo, Isco, and Benzema, I mean, they're stacked. The midfield of Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, or if you want to throw in what the fuck is his name? Yaya Toure as well. But then again, you compare that to KCM. Those are the 3 best, like the 2 best midfield trios of all time. And then you look at those back lines when you have Marcelo, Varane, Ramos, and Carvajal, and then you have also Avidal, Puyol, Piqué, and Dani Alves. And then in goal, you know, I think Madrid has the advantage because they have Iker Casillas. But to me, bro, a Barca fan, I'm never gonna say that Madrid's gonna beat us in the UCL final. Barca '09 would 100% beat Madrid in the UCL final because again, that team was just different, bro. It was just a different team. If you watch Barca '09, you know that team had, again, Madrid 2017 was basically inevitable. They were really, really fucking good. Probably the best Madrid team that I've ever seen. And with 2012 as well, 2012 was fucking fantastic. But again, '09 Barca is just, I mean, go. You don't have to take it from me. Go listen to guys like Rio Ferdinand and go listen to guys like Michael Carrick and go listen to guys like Wayne Rooney talk about how they felt in that final against Barca. And then also in 2011. Go look, like Barca was going up against Ronaldo and all those, like they were going up against Man United, who had won 3 straight Premier Leagues, and they made him look like chump change, like nothing, bro, like dog food on that day in Rome. And again, Madrid was going up against Juventus in 2017, which was a fantastic team that spanked Barca, and they beat them 4-1. That was actually one of the biggest dominations I've ever seen in a final. Again, it's hard to pick between both of these teams, but you're fucking delusional if you think I'm gonna say that 2017 Madrid. If I'm gonna say that any Madrid team would beat any Barca team, because at that point I might as well just resign my Barca fandom card and fucking become a Madrid fan. And I honestly would rather put peanut butter on my sack and walk into a dog shelter full of hungry stray dogs than ever admit that Madrid is better at anything than Barcelona on this channel. So yeah, for me, I'm going to have to disagree with this take heavily. And that, guys, is the end of part 12 of reacting to your football hot takes. I appreciate you guys so much for watching, man. I love every single one of you. Yeah, and thank you guys so much for everybody who submitted their hot take, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace out.